I'm Nat. Welcome to my kitchen. This is the first episode of The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Now, I've always said that if you can follow a recipe, then you can cook. I myself made a boo-boo or two in trying a recipe for the first time. Now, it's nothing to be ashamed of, but it is completely preventable. So, as an example, I myself will be trying recipes that I've never attempted before. Now, this is going to serve a couple of purposes. One purpose is that when you're reading a recipe, you often see techniques that they want you to use and you're not really sure what it means, like folding or riveting. So during this process, not only will I be telling you what those things mean, but I'll be showing you how to do those as well. So another reason is that because although I am a trained cook, I too make mistakes. So I will be posting these videos on the first bake, no matter how they turn out, so you can see if they're good, bad, or ugly, and if it's something that you'd like to try. So finally, cooking and baking can be intimidating for some people, but I want you to know that if you can follow instructions for your job, or put together mail order furniture, if you know, you can cook. Now for the first episode, I have chosen to do this maple pecan bundt cake right here. Now I'll be posting this recipe in the comments because it's way too small to read, but look how pretty she is. I'm so excited. I hope mine looks like that whenever we're done. Okay, so when I decided to do this content creator thing, I went through my literal boxes of books and pulled out every cooking treatise I had. Okay, when I came across this one, I just recalled the joy that I had whenever I saw it on the shelf 3 years ago, flipping through the pages and just getting excited to start baking the things that are in it. Unfortunately, 3 days later I moved and it's been in a box ever since. So we're going to see how this one turns out. Now pop me on the counter, like and subscribe, and let's make a maple and pecan bundt cake. Okay, so the first thing you're going to do is preheat your oven. That's always the first thing you do after you get your ingredients ready. Trust me, it's going to make it easier if you just gather everything together and then go for it. Pretend you're making a YouTube video. I mean, that's all I can tell you. I learned this method in culinary school called mise en place, everything in its place, right? But I'm telling you, I don't know what I was doing with my life before I learned to do this, because I was like, it's so simple, but it's so... Okay, so the next thing you want to do, you're going to grab your bundt pan, right? I just grabbed this at my local grocery store because my other one that had been passed down for generations got scratched up, so I had to go to the grocery store and grab what I tell y'all about baker's joy. Alright, so we're just going to go ahead and spray her lightly, okay? This has the stuff in it to make it non-stick. If you're still rubbing butter and bouncing flour everywhere, what are you doing? I'm all about making things easier because I bake all the time, and I just want to make sure I get it done as quickly as possible. Alright, so we have our oven preheated, we've got our pan greased. It's time to start mixing our ingredients. Alright, so our first step after preheating the oven, it says put the butter and brown sugar into a bowl and beat together until pale and fluffy. Now this is called the creaming method. You use this with cakes, cookies, a lot of baking. When you cream your butter and sugar together, it kind of emulsifies and makes the batter or dough more uniform and smooth and creamy. If you do not do this way, you will not get the results you're looking for, okay? Baking is like chemistry. There is a chemical reaction for everything you put in every recipe in baking. You cannot measure with your heart, which is really bad for me because I love measuring with my heart, but that's in cooking. In baking, you can't do that. You have to follow the instructions specifically. So we're going to go ahead and drop in our butter. I forgot to tell you everything that you're going to need. Oh my goodness. Let's go over that real quick. So we've got 1 1/4 sticks of butter softened. Okay. 1 cup firmly packed light brown sugar. Now if you're having a problem packing this and you're making a mess, I just stick mine down in the bag and get on the outside of the bag and pop it down that way so my fingers don't get sticky, because brown sugar has molasses in it. So it makes it very sticky, and that's why it's able to be packed like that, unlike white sugar. Alright, so we're going to put the brown sugar in. This doesn't have white sugar because it's maple. So the maple is going to take care of not only the flavoring where we would usually use vanilla, but it's also going to take care of that sweetening element. Alright, and it's a binding agent. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and put our brown sugar and our butter in our bowl. Like so. The butterier, the betterier. That's what I always say. I love the taste of butter. There's another thing that I want to tell you. Unless specifically stated in the recipe, do not use salted butter. Salt is the only spice that reacts with everything in the gluten, the butter, the sugar, everything. So when there's a measurement for salt, use it exactly. Okay? But do not use salted butter because that adds to the salt you've already put in the recipe and it's going to mess it up. So we're going to go ahead and cream these together. It's going to be loud, so I'm going to pause it for a sec. Okay, so you're going to beat it till it gets a nice creamy texture. Okay? The butter needs to be completely emulsified with the sugar. If you're looking at it and you're seeing butter chunks, beat it some more. It's really important that you get that incorporated, okay? So our next step says, let's see, gradually beat the eggs, then stir in the nuts and maple syrup and sour cream. So let me go ahead and crack these eggs and get them beaten. Okay, so we got 3 eggs. And I guess I'm telling you the ingredients as I go because I forgot that part at the beginning. So we got 1, 2, 3. Alright. Now I've already got my beaters all messy. So I'm going to use a whisk. Now, here's the thing that I'm going to tell you. A lot of chefs and bakers will tell you you need a stand mixer for the bigger stuff, but there's nothing wrong with a wooden spoon, hand mixer, whip. I mean, they work just as good, and if you've been doing it as long as I have, you just know when it's supposed to look good. Alright, so we've got our eggs lightly beaten. Don't destroy them, okay? Again, this is a chemical process, and it's very important that you follow the instructions specifically. If you don't want to die, I'm just kidding. You're not going to die. You're just going to look like Boo Boo the Fool with freaking flat cookies or an unleavened cake. Now I'm going to tell you what the book says, and it says, beat together until pale and fluffy. And this is pale and fluffy. So we've added the eggs, we've beaten the eggs, and then we're going to stir in the nuts and the maple syrup and sour cream. So there's a difference between beating and stirring, okay? Beating is woo, 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 with your mixer. Stirring, just a spoon stirring, okay? Now you're going to want to mix and scrape and mix and scrape because every part of that recipe, every ingredient is important, okay? So, you know, it gets up on the sides and it gums up. So you're going to stop 1-2 times and make sure you're really mixed good because after each step, we got to make sure that we're going to have a light cake. Now it says stir in the nuts. We have a 1/2 cup. The maple syrup, 1/4 cup. Alright, and so our sour cream, we're going to do 2/3 cup. So we're going to do some dollops of Daisy. Daisy dance, Daisy dance. I love Daisy. I keep this stuff in my refrigerator. I put it on just about everything, especially sweet potatoes. Oh, it's so good on sweet potatoes. So we've got to have 2/3 cup of Daisy. This is a 1/3 cup measuring cup. I don't believe I've ever seen a 2/3 cup measuring cup that wasn't for liquid. Now what this does, this is going to be the moisture for our cake, okay? Not milk, not heavy whipping cream. This is the moisture. And I'll tell you something, sour cream adds moisture to a lot of stuff. I mean, you'll see a lot of like online home recipes that include sour cream because number one, it's an inexpensive ingredient, but number two, man, you put sour cream in anything, and your family, your kids, even your finicky husband is gonna like it, right? All right, let me make sure this is a complete third. Again, we have to make sure we're doing everything specifically right. You didn't see that. Alright, so we got the sour cream in here. Alright, what does it say to do? Again, this is a longer video, but it's because we're following these instructions exactly. I'm showing you how to do this. We're going to get it done. So the next thing it says, stir in the nuts and maple syrup and sour cream, sift the flour and baking powder, and then fold it in thoroughly. Alright, so again, it says stir. I was just getting stuff off my beaters. It says stir, so we're just gonna stir. Now this is different than folding, okay? Stirring, I don't know if you can see it, it's quick. It's not folding. It's just boom. This is stirring. Okay? There is a difference, and I'm going to show you because we want to make sure that we're doing everything exactly right. I know, I keep saying that, but it's very important that if you're learning to cook, you do it the right way. Now, it also says that we're going to need how much? 1 3/4 teaspoons of baking powder. Now, the difference between baking powder and baking soda is that baking soda neutralizes acids, and it is pure baking soda. Baking powder is kind of like baking soda watered down, if you will. Baking powder contains baking soda, acid, and cornstarch. So if you have baking soda in your recipe and you don't have any baking soda, you can use 3 times the amount of baking powder because that's how little baking soda is in it. But because it is meant for leavening and reinforcement, it's okay to use this. However, and I cannot stress this enough, if you use baking soda instead of baking powder, you are going to have an acidic, salty, flat bake. Okay? Now, the reason that we don't need baking soda in this recipe is because there is baking soda in the baking powder, and we only need just a minimal amount. Okay? So, we're going to go ahead and put this 1 3/4 teaspoon in here. This is my 3/4. Now, it is very important also that you get these exactly right. No heaping, okay? No heaping. So in order to do that with my baking soda, I take this little tin flap and I fold it back, and it makes this sharp line right here, right? So I get my baking soda, and yeah, I can get it heaping right now, okay? But then I'm going to take that, see how evenly that scrapes? Alright, that's my 3/4, this is my 1. Alright, now what does it say about that? Alright, now it says we're going to start folding in the flour. Now I'm going to show you what folding does. Now I've already sifted my flour because, like I said, I get everything ready before. This is 1 3/4 cups of all-purpose flour. Now it says fold it in thoroughly. So we're going to do just a little bit at a time because we don't want it to get gunky. We want to make sure. Now the purpose of folding it in as opposed to stirring it is that when you stir flour, it tends to break down the gluten, okay? But if you fold it in, it's just lightly from the outside in, okay? When you fold it in, you're folding, see? You're picking it up and you're folding it. It's not as fast as I usually do it, but you're just folding. You do not want to stir or mix it like I did a minute ago, okay? Alright, I folded in all the flour, and she is there. I mean, there. I've seen batters like this before, so no worries. It just means that she's going to be light but dense, like moisture. Alright, So now it says spoon the batter into the prepared pan and gently smooth the surface. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to put her in here. Oh, she is so thick. She is just giving. See why it says spoon? You couldn't pour this stuff if you wanted to. Okay, again, she thick. Okay, so I've spooned it all in there. See, and we're just gonna take and spread her evenly, like the recipe says. All right. So you see how I've spread her evenly. All right, my messy behind. I'm gonna go ahead and clean up these edges before I throw her in the oven, so that we don't have that burnt, crispy stuff. Okay. Again, I just don't. It doesn't hurt anything, but it makes me feel inadequate whenever my stuff comes out baked messy. And that happens more often than not. So again, it's preventable. I just have to be a little more careful about what I'm doing. Okay, so our next instruction is bake in the preheated oven for 45 to 50 minutes or until the cake is firm and golden and a toothpick inserted into the center comes out clean. I usually use a fork though, because, well, toothpicks, it's so hot reaching the oven with a toothpick, so I use a fork. So we're gonna go ahead and throw her in the oven. Now it says 45 to 50 minutes is what it says. So I'm gonna set my timer for 45 minutes and then check it. Okay, while our cake is baking, we're gonna go ahead and make the icing. Alright, so it says to make the icing, mix together the confectioner's sugar, maple syrup, and enough water to make smooth icing. I forgot my warm water. Hang on, I'll be right back. Okay, so I've got my 2/3 cup of confectioner's sugar. Alright, we'll need 1 tablespoon of maple syrup. This stuff is so sticky. She's sticky icky. Alright, and hard to pour. I went a little overboard, but it's icing, so it's okay, because it wants you to add water too. So let's go ahead and mix this up. We're going to go ahead, it says 2 tablespoons of water as needed. Well, we'll go ahead and put 2 in there to start, and then if we need it to be smoother, we'll do it. Alright, now if you see there, we've got that sugar there. All we're going to do is just keep stirring until that sugar dissolves, okay? This looks so good, y'all, and it's already smelling so good. I wish the smells could come through the video, because if you could smell it, you would absolutely love how it smells. Now, this is, you can't even, it doesn't even stick. So it's not ribbon texture, and that's exactly what we want. This is a glaze type of icing. It's not like a thick type of icing. So now that we've got that mixed up, we're going to set it to the side. And this also says that once it comes out, we gotta let it sit for 10 minutes. So after 10 minutes, I'll be back to show you how to ice the cake. Okay, well, we've taken the bundt cake out of the oven. I mean, she's thick, but she's not that tall. And that concerns me a little bit, because this one, it could be the angle, but this one kind of looks a little bigger. I don't know if y'all can see that. That one looks a little taller. You know, I'm sure it's going to taste good. We're going to find out. So the last bit of the instruction says just spoon the icing over the top of the cake and let it run down the sides and decorate with chopped nuts and let it sit. So we've got our little icing here that we made earlier. Let's give it another stir. All right. And we're just going to, it says spoon it, but I like to drizzle. Because I can control the pour, you know. So I just take it around like that. Make sure it's drizzling. Anytime you make a cake that has a drizzle, make sure that it's drizzling all over those sides. And with a bundt cake, it looks so pretty because of how imprints in the pan. Okay, so it says to do that, and then we're going to take our little scoopy knife and get all the pecans that we can and just do pecans Oh, I love pecans, but I guess it's because, pecan trees are all over the South. And let me tell you something, if I hear one more person say pecan, it sounds so vulgar. Shame on you. Don't be ugly. Don't be ugly. I'm watching you. Alright. That's enough for me. I did chocolate. We're going to give her a little slice here. And plate her up. I don't know if you could hear that, but it's got that crust on it. If you're like me and you love that crust on the outside of your butt cake, it's so perfect. Look at that. I'm gonna come show you. Okay, well, we are done baking it. I've plated it up. It is lightly dense, like I thought it would be. There's no doughy middle or anything like that. It's perfectly moist. And look at the outside. The outside has that good crust on it, and the moistness is just, it's perfect. So let's give her a try. I'm gonna get a piece of this outside that has some of the icing on it. Alright, oh, I'm so excited. We'll see. Good, bad, or ugly. I'm so glad I made this. I was thinking while it was baking, I tried to elevate it a little bit. So I had this idea that I could put bacon in it. Because I don't know if y'all know, Dunkin', this time of year, has the maple bacon sandwich. And the maple and bacon taste so good together. So we may do an episode where I experiment a little bit and do some bacon. But I don't know why I was worried about how short this was. Because the texture is perfect. So, this was, I feel like good, bad, or ugly. I feel like this is a good. This is a good. And I'm actually surprised because I was worried about the fact that it didn't have baking soda. I was worried about maybe there were too many eggs. But then whenever I was stirring it, and it was so difficult once I got the flour in, I knew it was going to be pretty dense. I did not expect it to be dense but fluffy. And if you've ever tasted a dense but fluffy cake, you kind of know what I'm talking about. So, thanks. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for watching. I had a lot of fun today. Like I said, I think that one turned out good. So like and subscribe and join me next time. We'll have nothing but fun. I'm a hoot. Love you, bye.